Testing, testing. All right, guys. Sorry about the snafu. Let's try this again. Come, let us explore the 7 meditation mistakes blocking enlightenment. Together, let us relaxingly recite. In the Buddha's concise meditation instruction, known as the Mindfulness with Breathing Discourse, or the Satipatthana Sutta, the 7 enlightenment factors are mentioned. This simple teaching is applicable to the Theravada, Mahayana, and Tantrayana paths. We practice the first enlightenment factor of mindfulness, or sati, every time we notice, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly during each inhalation. As silently and mentally we recite this for noticing. All right. It bears recalling that it is the polar opposite of the rigidity and controlling tendencies inherent to concentration. We practice the second enlightenment factor of investigation, or Dhamma-vichaya, every time we courageously defy our fearful, defensive, and prideful tendencies to act as our own press secretary, forever photoshopping or editorializing the sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, and scents, as well as the emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings that seem to cartwheel across the metaphoric stage of our mind. For we are called to be vulnerable to whatever comes up, be it external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. We practice the third enlightenment factor of energy, or viriya, every time we make the subtle adjustments to the variables of our life that influence our mental lucidity and physical vitality, such as getting enough sleep, exercise, and recreation, as well as consuming a whole food, cruelty-free diet. We practice the fourth enlightenment factor of joy, or piti, by sidestepping the patriarchal's metaphoric minefield of stoically gutting it out. For the two fringe benefits of practicing both mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so is first, automatically generating the highest love, which is spontaneous and uncontrived, and second, allowing our choices, utterances, and deeds to flow, not from the spontaneity that is scattered, but from the spontaneity that is centered. For this, my friends, is the font of enlightened joy. We practice the fifth element factor of serenity, or passaddhi, by automatically relaxing in cooperation with our parasympathetic nervous system. One moment, if you please. For that is what we've evolved to do during each exhalation. Instead of forcing, we merely cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system. We practice the sixth enlightenment factor of coalescence or samadhi every time our inhalation gathers in our lungs as our vulnerable passive visceral, random, and fleeting awareness of sight, sound, sensations, flavors, and scents, as well as emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings, likewise gather in our mind and relies upon the sympathetic nervous system. The practice of the seventh enlightenment factor of equanimity, or upekkha, we practice the seventh enlightenment factor of equanimity, or upekkha, when, as we relax into each exhalation, all the dreads and desires we noticed during the previous inhalation feel as if they were melting into the non-duality of the feeling of non-graspability. That is less stressful, less permanent, and less defining. This is why the Buddha taught mindfulness and meditation. Hey, Jay, what do you say? Having completed our opening lesson, it's time for us to now shift gears. It is General Leia Organa's Saturday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping, this is the Dzogchen Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus so that I could spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this morning's live stream, we're going to play with the latest iteration of very easy meditation practice text, or sadhana, if you're nasty. We begin with the first collection of 12 sets of 12 inhalations upon the tip of our left index finger. We could rest our right index fingers third, second, or first knuckle palms up in our lap. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including so-called meditation teachers who are more enthusiastic about Yang's religious or irreligious patriarchy than they are about Yin's spiritual matriarchy, who would rather be rigid, fearful, superstitious, and controlling rather than flexible, loving, rational, and laid back, and who would rather be elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel than egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Therefore, it should come as little surprise that the majority of meditation teachers implore their students to actively focus and actively analyze. Now, the only way to do that is in reliance upon discrete neural pathways, such as those found in the medial and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. The problem with overworking our prefrontal cortex is that it can increase the probability of us presenting with the symptoms of depression, as well as downright triggering our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression, which are the polar opposites of the peace and the love that make life worth living. Fortunately, neither the prefrontal cortex nor the amygdala constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Case in point, every time we inhale, we're wired to automatically access our sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to notice a very special way, to help us to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Every time we exhale, our parasympathetic nervous system, which is divided between our lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord, has evolved to support physical relaxation and mental release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and even less defining. Yes, patriarchy's elitism lies to us many ways. For instance, it tells us the only way to become a Buddhist is to master the full lotus position, even though the Buddha never taught that, and the most ancient Buddhist statuary depicts the Gautama or Shakyamuni, the Buddha, sitting not in the full lotus posture, but just the quarter lotus posture, where our legs are stacked like pieces of bread in a peanut butter sandwich. Remember, our knees are only hinged joints. It's just our hips that are ball joints, so let us not force our posture. Let us humbly give ourselves permission to be slobby and messy and flawed, to have our sitting be asymmetric and ungainly. That's okay, even if it looks, like something that the cat dragged in. Play with this posture for as little as 5 minutes every 12 hours, and within a week or two, our body could surprise us. Given the importance of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, the most efficient way for us to cooperate with their functions is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, as well as silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. You see, by doing that, all we're doing is saying, I'm not going to fight my autonomic nervous system. I'm going to cooperate with it. That's all it takes. It's just that simple. The great Buddhist reformer, Rahe Vajra, at the conclusion of his Opus Magus, wrote, it's difficult because it's easy. Come, let us practice. Now remember, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I check for questions approximately once every 15 minutes or so. I'm not sure if I specified this, but we want to keep our breathing nostril oriented during this exercise. Jay asked an excellent question. Do I ever use scented aromas for meditation? Jay, is that a euphemism for the repercussions of eating beans with every meal? No, I don't. So there's always going to be someone who's going to try to sell you some sort of tchotchke that's supposed to enhance your meditation. All it's going to enhance is their bank account. The Buddha kept it simple. Remember, according to mythology, Buddhist mythology, the Buddha began as the ultimate Nepo baby. His dad was a warlord, and so he was marinated in every pleasure and every convenience. When he left the palace, he chose a life of radical simplicity. When he wanted a cushion, he just gathered some kusha grass and sat on it. So we don't need tchotchkes. We just need to just keep it simple. KISS, keep it simple, silly. Now it's perfectly understandable that you asked that question because there are a lot of people telling us a lot of things and trying to sell us a lot of things. It's not your fault. That's just the product of the culture in which we live. Let us briefly review the 4 lessons we can learn from the iconography of Kuntu Zangpo and Kuntu Zangmo Yabyan. The nudity of Kuntu Zangmo reminds us that for mindfulness to be effective, it must be practiced in a manner that is vulnerable, passive, visceral, random, and fleeting. The hue of Kuntu Zangpo reminds us that as we relax into our exhalation, whatever it is that we noticed during our previous inhalation, could feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. The beauty of this tantric couple reminds us that the highest love is the spontaneous and uncontrived fringe benefit or byproduct of our practice of noticing and relaxing, also known as mindfulness and meditation. The stability with which Kuntu Zangpo sits reminds us of centeredness. The abandon with which Kuntu Zangmo sports reminds us of spontaneity. When our choices, utterances, and deeds flow from love's centered spontaneity, our life can be an amazing adventure. Let us continue to play with nostril-oriented respiration. Upon the tip of our left middle finger, we could rest our right middle finger's third, second, or first third, second, or first knuckle palms up in our lap. Let us consider the iconography of the archetype of Dorje Sempa. In his right hand he holds something like this, known as a Vajra or Dorje. It reminds us that every time we inhale, we are wired to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. We're wired to notice sight, sound, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. It is not our job to pick and choose what we notice. We let things come up, once again, randomly, whether they're external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. In Dorje Sempa's left hand, he's holding a bell, also known as a ganta, to remind us that as we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as resounding yet non-graspable as the tone of a bell. Since we're shifting fingers this time from the index to the middle, we'll be working with a three-syllable silent and mental recitation of noticing and relaxing in harmony with our inhalation and exhalation, that we might better cooperate with our sympathetic as well as parasympathetic nervous systems. The index finger helps with peace, the middle finger helps with love and joy. Previously, we worked with nostril-oriented breathing. Now we are playing with chest-oriented breathing. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class, as well as group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.